You're about to trust a software vendor with your product, but you can't judge their code? Here's the checklist that decides how this ends before you sign anything. My name is Matt Kupczyk, and I'm a founder of Brival, a senior-led software engineering practice. Over the last decade, we've built and modernized software for more than 100 companies, from startups to enterprises. We are in the software development business, and we've seen it from all angles. We've worked on projects coming from agencies. We've delegated work to agencies, and we've taken over from agencies. And I'll be honest, some of this list we learned by getting it wrong ourselves. Our standard today is really a list of things we decided never to let happen again. So let's dive into the root of the problem. Founders don't get burned because they're careless. They get burned because they can't judge code quality, and often they don't see or understand the things around the code that will hit them. The deployments, the ownership, the security, everything that happens after the handover. So if you've been burned before, it probably wasn't your fault. You engaged with an expert in the field, you were judging what you could see, and the important stuff was invisible. Here's the part that matters. Before signing with an agency, you will never judge the code. But everything around the code, that you can judge. And that's what this video is. And it doesn't matter whether you're considering an agency, a freelancer, or an offshore team. For the most part, the checklist is the same. I'll say agency through this video, but everything here applies to anyone who builds software for you. So I believe that 2026 changed this game in two directions at once. On one side, AI collapsed the old trade-off between good and fast. But from our experience, this turned out to be true only for teams with real discipline. Test automation, enterprise architecture, things that used to be a budget decision are now cheap. Which means you should be demanding more for the same money, not the same for less. On the other side, the same AI lets an undisciplined vendor produce bad software faster than ever. Steve Krause put it best. Vibe code is legacy code. You can now buy a large, buggy legacy codebase in a record time. So there's a chance that through AI, you'll be getting more, but more can carry the value or increase the debt. One honest thing before the checklist. Sometimes an agency is the wrong answer. For example, when it's your core product, long-term, and nobody on your side will ever own tech. Y Combinator has been warning founders about this setup for years, and they have a point. Also, if your budget is under $5,000, hire a skilled freelancer, not an agency, because the overhead won't serve you. This video is for when an agency is the right call. So here's the map. 7 questions before you sign, then the paperwork, then 3 signs of a healthy engagement, and the bonus one, 3 rules for when they leave. By the way, one thing to remember, none of these questions are rude. A good vendor has heard every single one of them and doesn't mind getting them because they have answers. If a question makes the room awkward, that's feedback too. Speaking as vendor, the clients we've worked with the longest are the aware ones, the ones we've had those uncomfortable conversations with. Number 1, good vendors diagnose before they quote. Best ones act more like advisors, not order takers. So, in the first meeting, instead of jumping straight into the project, give them some room and watch what they ask about. The best ones start with your business, your goals, your situation, but many still just sell hours and the tech stack they happen to know. Those days are ending, but they're not over yet, so you need to watch out. Also, be careful with everyone who walks in selling a rewrite before they've read your code. That's, again, selling, not diagnosing. A real partner examines first and shows you a plan you can check. And the strongest good sign of all is when they tell you when their own solution would not work. It's the last thing you want to end up with a solution because someone was selling it and not because you needed it. Number 2, agree on the deliverables on paper. Before you sign, you need to know exactly what you're buying. Is it an output, like working software? Is it an outcome, a business result? Or is it just hours? And the other side of it, what are you paying for? The result, the effort, or availability? Each of these is a fair deal, but each also carries a different risk, and it has to be written down, not assumed. Most vendor disputes are simply two sides who each assumed a different answer to this question. We've taken over many projects, and I can't overstate how many times we've seen this exact misalignment. The budget was drained, the result was 50% done, and that's when the client found out they had been paying for hours. And then, unexpectedly, they had to pay extra to get it over the finish line. Trust me, this is not something that you want to go through with your project. Number 3, ask how they use AI and what it changed for them. We have a couple different options here. A vague "AI makes us 10 times faster" deserves a follow-up. How? What did it change in how you work? Because honestly, we see many different angles here. Some vendors don't use it at all, which means that they're falling behind. Some estimate the old way, they don't tell you they use it, and they keep the difference as profit. Some use it, but nothing changes in the outcome. You get the old stuff, just cheaper, which still carries some value. But our take is the following. Even if the work takes the same time, while in most cases it shouldn't, then it should be done better. Better quality, better scalability, better architecture. So you should ask whether it's better and what better means for them. Now you might ask, shouldn't AI just make it cheaper? Real buyers are asking that, and some have won. Last year, KPMG pushed its own auditor into a double-digit discount by pointing at AI savings. But look at where the discounts landed, at firms billing by the hour. And this is the same question again. Decide what you're buying. Cheaper is on the table, but oftentimes better is the bigger price. One more thing here, because it points forward and is becoming more and more important. Making software friendly to AI, so it's easy for models to develop and agents to interact with, is becoming its own engineering practice. It's the same kind of a shift moving to APIs 10 years ago. In the past, we've had server pages where the business logic and the layout lived in one tangle. Then we transitioned to APIs where backend code could be built once and then reused by different interfaces, like a website, mobile app, or an automation. So if you expect to need it, ensure your code base will be ready for it. In this section, good answers sound concrete. We didn't have money for end-to-end tests, and now we do. Or we build things to be AI friendly. New capabilities, not the old stuff cheaper. Number 4, know who carries the risk. This one is simple. With a fixed price, the vendor carries the risk of delivery. On time and materials, and here's the honest part, you own the delivery. Nobody says that out loud, but that's the deal you're signing. The easiest way to tell the difference is to ask about the warranty. Who pays for the bug that shows up 2 months after launch? If the contract doesn't answer that question, then you just did. Number 5, ask for the handover standard before you sign. Here's the question. When this engagement ends, could a competent stranger or an AI agent pick up the code base next month and safely make a change? Tests, docs, automated deployments, that is what should be included in the handed over package. Also worth adding one more question. If we had more support on our side, say in-house engineers, can you work alongside them? That's a reasonable expectation because your local team is going to grow, especially on the funding journey. Number 6, ask about their delivery standard, end-to-end. What does their quality assurance process look like? How do they handle security? How do they stay on top of the platform being reviewed and updated? And what does maintenance look like after launch? Here's the trick. You're not judging the content of the answers, but you're checking that they have rehearsed answers at all. Number 7, it's safest to start small, like a fixed price engagement with milestone payments tied to deliverables you've accepted. We like to start with a closed scope engagement whenever possible. It closes the loop at small scale. Let us learn together how we communicate, how we agree on expectations, how delivery actually feels. For team augmentation, it could be a 2-week trial that ends with a clear deliverable. The trial tests everything the first 6 questions asked about against reality instead of answers. Before we get to the engagement itself, let's pause at the paperwork for a moment. 4 things that must be in writing. First, paying is not the same as owning. Only a written transfer of intellectual property makes the code yours, and access to the repository is not legal ownership. And check what the vendor keeps. Protect your IP, but let them protect theirs, because you have unique insights and so do they. There's a saying that 1 client in a vertical is just a client, 2 clients in the same vertical is a conflict, and 3 is specialization. Ask yourself whether you're leveraging their expertise and land on fair terms. Second, acceptance. Agreed criteria and a defined window to review each milestone. Usually it lands around 5 working days, with maybe a longer one for the whole project. Payment releases on written acceptance, which is what makes milestones real. One caveat to this. When the work is sequenced, dragged out reviews disorganize everything. So negotiate a healthy buffer, yet be prepared for a pushback if your reviews drag. Third, an exit clause. Termination for convenience, roughly 30 days notice and a capped exit fee. It's the clause that lets you leave without a lawsuit. And fourth, warranty with numbers. The market norm is 30 to 90 days after acceptance for real defects, sometimes up to 180. That's your answer to that bug 2 months after the launch. Now to the engagement itself. You can't always review the code, so you need to watch the delivery engagement. Here are 3 signs it's healthy. Number 1 is working software, delivered early and often. Weekly or bi-weekly demos of running software, not slide decks about progress. If the vendor is aiming for a big final reveal after months of work, it is a big final risk on your end. Number 2, they build in the open. You should see the activity, commits, pull requests, everything as it happens. Not a note saying, it's almost ready, we'll commit later this week. Visibility isn't a report, but it's watching the work land where you own it. Number 3, communication keeps you in the loop and in control. A named delivery manager with product demos happening every sprint. Budget and scope check-ins. Scope changes should be confirmed ahead, surfaced with their cost and impact when they happen, not at the invoice. And the standing ability to change direction to the extent you agreed. Now the end game. 3 rules for when they leave, because every engagement ends and the good ones are designed to. Rule number 1, ownership transfers on a milestone, not at the end. A vendor holding ownership until they are paid is fair, but agree the transfer point up front and tie it to the first paid milestone, not to the end of the relationship. From that point, repository, cloud, domains, pipelines, in your name with the vendor holding access you can revoke. Unfortunately, and it has happened multiple times, clients do get held hostage by code ownership or infrastructure or a domain. We've seen a client strong-armed into paying extra just to get their own domain and their code base handed over when their paths with the vendor split. If nobody can state the ownership terms, you are locked in by default. Rule number 2, make the knowledge transfer a deliverable. Handover docs, recorded walkthroughs written into the scope, because when the contract ends, the understanding walks out the door, unless you caught it first. Rule number 3, leave by design is the green flag. A vendor whose business survives you leaving has their incentives aligned with yours. Lock-in as a business model, not an accident. So, if you remember one thing, make it the pattern. Everything on the list is one idea seen from different sides. Discipline you can observe, the risk on the vendor's side, and ownership on yours. When those 3 hold, the details take care of themselves. One last thing, why this matters right now. Every few years, software has to be redone. The shift now is that systems are becoming agentic, built for AI to operate them and open enough to plug into everything around them. The vendor bar moves with every wave, and that's why a handover question and the quality question belongs in every vendor conversation this year. So that's the whole checklist. Questions, the paperwork, signs, and the rules. It's how we run our own engagement, and the written version is linked in the description. If this was useful, it's the kind of thing we publish regularly. How to build high-quality software and how that's shifting in the era of AI. Subscribe to this channel so you can catch the next one. And if you want more, visit our website brival.co and sign up to our newsletter. That's where we go deeper and share the numbers behind our work.